Okay. Preliminary matters, there are none. Public comments. Residents and taxpayers of the borough are permitted to comment on current matters of concern or agenda items which are before council this evening. If you'd like to address borough council this evening, we ask that you please stand at the microphone, keep your name, spell your last name, give your address so you will be properly identified for the minute record. Each speaker will be limited to 5 minutes. As an alternative, written comments can be submitted to public comments at franklinparkborough.us prior to 12 noon Eastern on Wednesday, September 18, 2024, in order to be considered at this meeting. Please include September 18th public comment as subject of your email and include your name and address so you're properly identified for the record. Do we have any emails?
No.
Okay. And there is no one signed up to speak. So
We'll have a public hearing on the.
yeah, we'll have a public hearing on the ordinance, and we will have time at the end as well. Okay. Monthly reports. Let's see, the minutes of the August 21st, 2024 pre-post meeting, August 21st, 2024 regular meeting, and it's September 4th, 2024 work session minutes were given to the mayor and council. Are there any additions or corrections? Seeing as there are none, motion number one.
Move the minutes of the August 21st, 2024 pre-post meeting, the August 21st regular meeting, and the September 4th, 2024 work session minutes be approved.
Second.
All those for?
Aye.
Against? Abstained? Motion carries. Treasurer's financial report.
Thank you. Just starting with the revenues, total revenues in the general fund for the month of August total $780,343, which represents that is 6.42% of the 2024 budget. And through the month of August year to date, we're at 62.04% of the 2024 total budget year to date. And the revenues year to date are $7,546,445. On the expenditure side, the total expenditures for the month of August were $710,461. That represents 4.64% of the 2024 total budget. And the expenditures through August year to date are $6,365,962, and that represents 41.62% of the 2024 total budget year to date. That is the end of the report, Mr. President.
Move the August treasurer's financial report to be accepted as read.
Second.
All those for?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Abstained? Motion number two carries. Police report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, for the police report. Our officers for the month of August had 413 calls for service that resulted in 10 arrests, 1 DUI, 1 fraud, 1 disorderly conduct, 2 harassment, 2 retail theft, 2 dumping, 1 extortion. We issued 114 citations and 258 warnings. And we had 1 special response team detail assisting West Deer. There was a male that was barricaded in a restaurant, and we gave assistance there. In addition, Officer Mintic, assisted by Officers Costco, Mammy, and Sergeant Electrician, conducted a traffic stop occupied by 4 males that resulted in the arrest of multiple individuals for drugs and a hidden firearm that had a serial number scratched off. It was determined that the firearm was stolen and had been used in a homicide in the city of Pittsburgh. This incident highlights the unknown dangers that our officers deal with during their routine activities. All the officers involved received a letter of recognition in their personnel files. Franklin Park police officers participated with the North Hills DUI drug force in conjunction with the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration to conduct DUI revolving patrols. A total of 120 vehicles were stopped for various traffic violations. National Night Out was a great success, with the Franklin Park Police Department having 10 officers in attendance. It was a wonderful opportunity to connect with the community and celebrate our shared commitment to safety. On August 5th and 23rd, the Franklin Park Police assisted North Allegheny School Police in conducting interviews for hiring new officers. August 22nd was the first day of the school. We had an officer designated to conduct traffic posts in high traffic areas and school zones from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. That officer conducted 30 traffic stops, issuing citations and warnings. Officer Blakely conducted a free child passenger seat installation and check for a resident, and as a thank you, she gave the department $20 Starbucks gift card. On August 30th, Franklin Park officers assisted the administrative staff at Ingomar Middle School while they escorted 160 students from their building to the Borough building, showing the students where the reunification area would be for any potential evacuation incident. And during the month of August, our officers completed 242 hours of training, and that completes the police report, Mr. President.
Okay.
Recommend the police report be filed with the police secretary.
Fire report.
Thank you, Mr. President. The fire company responded to 27 calls for the month of August with the following breakdown: 5 dispatched and canceled en route, 4 fire alarm system activation, 3 severe weather-related calls, 2 natural gas leaks, 2 vehicle accidents with general cleanup, 2 good intent calls, 1 vehicle accident with extrication required, 1 brush fire, 1 deck fire, 1 vehicle fire, 1 CO detector activation with no readings found, 1 assist police with disabled school bus, 1 cooking fire, 1 power line down, 1 hazardous condition, which was a sewer gas smell. The fire company assisted other fire companies once, and we were assisted by other companies twice. For the month of August, the company expended 517 volunteer man-hours, and for the past 12 months, the company has expended 6,369 volunteer man-hours. End of report, Mr. President.
Thank you. The building inspector's report, I'm not sure, with Tim being out. Okay, it's been entered in record. Okay. All right. Announcement of executive session. Borough Council held an executive session on September 4th, 2024 to discuss police personnel, property acquisition, and potential litigation. Borough Council also held an executive session earlier this evening to discuss potential litigation. Okay. On to old business, none. On to new business. Motion number 3.
Move council authorize the payment of the bills which have been reviewed and approved since the last meeting.
Second.
All those for?
Aye.
Against? Abstain? Motion carries. Okay, so public hearing, ordinance number 687-2024, amending chapter 2212 of the Code of the Borough of Franklin Park zoning to amend residential use area and bulk requirements table and revise garage door standards for multifamily buildings. Mr. Yunker, would you summarize ordinance number 687-2024? Or did I?
Well, we're going to first open the public hearing. We'll now go continue to be on the record. This is the date, time, and location for a public hearing on proposed ordinance number 687 of 2024 regarding residential uses, area, and bulk requirements table and garage door standards for multifamily buildings. This is required under Section 609 of the Municipalities Planning Code regarding enactment of zoning ordinance amendments, as well as Section 610 regarding the publication, advertisement, and availability of ordinances. We have a number of preliminary exhibits that I will refer to and enter into the record before we open the floor for discussions. Exhibit A is the transmittal to the Borough's Planning Commission dated July 22nd, 2024 and September 13th, 2024. Exhibit B is the Planning Commission September 17th, 2024 agenda for last night, and this will be supplemented by the meeting minutes regarding their recommendation once those are prepared. They did recommend a positive action on this proposed ordinance. Exhibit C is the transmittal letter to Allegheny County Economic Development dated July 31st, 2024. Exhibit D is the Allegheny County Economic Development comment letter dated August 26th, 2024. Exhibit E is the transmittal to the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette dated August 13th, 2024. Exhibit F is the transmittal emails to Allegheny County Chief Clerk and the Allegheny County Law Library. Exhibit G is the proof of publication of notice of public hearing and intent to enact, advertised on August 22nd, 2024, and August 29th, 2024. And finally, Exhibit H is proposed ordinance number 687-2024. This ordinance makes two amendments of note to the zoning ordinance. One, it updates the residential the residential uses area and bulk requirements table to change and make uniform the height restrictions for townhomes in the applicable zoning districts. It deletes or changes the maximum height of an apartment building from 8 stories to 4, and changes the garage door standards for multifamilies from 50% and increases that to 70%. These are liberalizations of the zoning code. These are not additional restrictions in the code, except for the multifamily apartment building restriction that does lower that. It is more conservative than liberal. But in general, these were part of a review and an application for a zoning variance for the development off of Lorick Place and Lorick Lane regarding a townhome development that was previously approved as Cardinal Ridge by Borough Council. The request was to make the garage door requirements a little more liberal at 70% and to change the height requirement from 2B to 3B. As part of those discussions, this matter was referred to the Land Use Committee, which met over the summer to review the residential uses area and bulk requirements table to come up with the proposed changes that you have before you tonight and consider the change to the garage door requirements that's applicable to all multifamily buildings. That committee made a positive recommendation, started the enactment process. As I went through all these exhibits, we have followed the procedure of the MPC to provide the proposed ordinance to the Planning Commission and Allegheny County Economic Development. We have advertised tonight's public hearing under the MPC and are able to take public comments at this time. This is not subject to the Sunshine Act. We do not have a 5-minute limit. We do not have a resident or taxpayer requirement, but if anybody cares to speak to this proposed ordinance, we ask you to come, state your name, speak slowly because we do have a court reporter taking down the testimony this evening. However, you are not under oath, and we would invite you to make your comments. Sir?
Thank you. My name's Ethan Fellheimer, F as in Frank, E-double-L-H-E-I, M as in Mary, E-R. Address is 121 7th Street, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. 15222, Unit 401. I am the owner of the property, and we've been here for 2 years. You were kind enough to let me sit in on the pre-meeting, and you have no idea the amount of restraint, if you've seen me up here before, that I exhibited by not being able to speak. So I appreciate everybody being thoughtful, and I try to abide by that rule. So I listened to everything that committee had to say, and I certainly understand the issues, and they're greater than just this one development. It appears to me what we requested was 3B, and what happened was that in trying to, so a basement plus 3 living levels, which is 4, and it would stay within the normal height restrictions of what the building code states. But what appeared that happened was that in trying to make the code conform to all, if I'm getting it correct, to all of the districts or all of the various districts, I think that's the correct way to say it, that AB was the thing. So if you look at our design is garage, maybe there's a little backspace and then 3 floors above of living space. It was never intended to be a 5-story building. It was really the A, comma B, which occurred somewhere in one of the committees. Not this committee, could be planning, could be zoning, I'm not sure. What we're really trying to achieve is just that. We're not trying to go large and go home. We're trying to make what we found, and I had to buy one of these for my ex-wife. It's a basement, a little space. The main living room is on the 2nd floor. This isn't what I designed here, or what's designed here, I'm not quite sure. 2nd floor is 2 bedrooms, really, a master suite and then another bedroom, and then like a teenager's loft, if you will, with a bedroom and a bathroom. They're not, compared to residential houses, not so large, but that's what we were going for, was the 3B. And I understand that council has to be cognizant of how this affects the whole township and the policies that are overreaching, and we don't want to create things that have a driving force elsewhere and all that good stuff. But I know this is a little bit, it's personally very hard to stand up here, not to stand up here, but to, it's an economic, every time we've been back for 8, 9 times. We wanted the garage door because that single stall door that we got by right, that long driveway, was just made the project very difficult, and that would only lend itself to rental community. So we wanted the extra length of the garage door, the width, sorry, to accommodate for 2-car loading and 2 cars behind it if possible, but that would alleviate street disturbance, which wouldn't be good for the neighborhood. I don't know if this is possible, if there is any way to enact the garage door tonight, or without the height. That would be tremendous. We have a deal where we're doing for sale housing with the land developer here in the room with me, and we want to get going. I'm paying, I know this isn't, nobody cries for the developer, though they should in these past couple of years. But we pay interest on this every month, and it's been economically very difficult trying to achieve something that's economically viable with council, and I know you've been patient with us and you've really helped, and any way that we could try and move the garage doors in. We're asking for what I think you guys want, which is the basement plus 3, which I don't think is offensive to you. So those are my statements. I understand where it got. Nobody's asking for 3 plus A and B, and I know that council says it's just another month. I've been here 2 years. It's really costing my family, costing me greatly, and any way that the council could hear it that way would be much appreciated. And I thank you for your time, and certainly if anybody has any questions, but that's where my public statement stands. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, I think for purposes of the record, we do have a public pre-meeting. We don't have public comment during it. We do review the agenda as part of that. We have our own agenda for the pre-meeting, and this public hearing and the proposed ordinance was a topic of discussion. So I'll supplement my list of preliminary exhibits with Borough Exhibit I, which will be the meeting minutes of the pre-meeting once they are done next month or so, just for purposes of making sure we capture all of that, and for the rest of the public to know, we did have discussions about the table and the other issues. Anyone else care to give public comment on the proposed ordinance? With that, we can close the public comment portion of the public hearing, but we will stay on the record for deliberation discussion as to the proposed motion, both motion number 4 and motion number 5. I guess just in terms of our usual course, I will summarize ordinance number 687, 2024. It is an ordinance of the Borough of Franklin Park, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, amending Chapter 212 in the Code of the Borough of Franklin Park zoning to amend the residential uses area and bulk requirements table and revise the garage door standards for multifamily buildings. This has been properly advertised. We've held the public hearing. It is ripe for potential action this evening.
Mr. Younger, before we get to that, we have a question procedurally. Is it possible under the law, based on the advertising, to focus just on the garage door portion of the amendment, going from 50 to 70%, relying on the Section 108? Section 108 municipal planning.
So, yes, the reason we have this public hearing, the reason we have all these exhibits is because the process for changing a zoning ordinance or a subdivision and land development ordinance, because they have to do with private property rights, they're a very detailed process, and those procedures are in place so that when restrictions are placed on property, if something was missed, in terms of no public hearing was held, no advertisements were made, any resident or landowner can file a procedural validity challenge in the Court of Common Pleas to say there was an error, ask the court to strike the ordinance, which the court can do. But all that does is really mean you have to start over again if you want to reenact the overturned ordinance. The legislature did put in a process, and under Section 108, we do have the motion there that essentially declares after enactment, it's an additional optional legal advertisement that alerts the public that the ordinance has been enacted. And if you have a procedural claim or procedural validity challenge, you have 30 days from the second advertisement with which to follow that. If no filing is made within that time period, the ordinance is sort of renewed or refreshed despite any procedural violations. That being said, because we have this process, if you make any changes other than a typo or anything else to the ordinance that has been advertised, that has gone through this comment process, the MPC does say you essentially start the process over again. You redraft it, you do additional advertisements explaining what the changes were, you have another public hearing, you have other comments from Planning Commission, Allegheny County Economic Development. If council would consider the motion to enact ordinance number 687-224, but strike Section 1, which is the changes to the table, and enact it so that it just addressed the garage, you can do so. That should go through that process I just described, but you could follow the process of doing the optional Section 108 ordinance notification that doesn't cure any of those procedural issues, and somebody could still file a challenge, but it does put a time period on that. It would have to be done in a short matter of time. So we typically pass this motion just in case there was a procedural hiccup. It's a belt and suspenders approach. It is optional. In this instance, if there is a desire to make changes to the ordinance, but not necessarily go through all that process again, you're not guaranteed there won't be a procedural challenge, but once again, because this is a liberalization, it's not a further restriction. There's less motivation for people to challenge for the procedures because you're not imposing additional restrictions. It would be unlikely for somebody to file a challenge.
the public hearing part is closed, but based on that clarification, you make an exception. I can speak briefly at that point.
I can, yes, and I think that would be in order. I yield the gavel right now, even though
Yeah.
President Pallad has it.
Yeah, just state your name, address for the record.
My name's Craig Schweiger, Schweiger. My address is 1552 Barrington Drive, Wexford, 15090. I'm the owner by virtue of a contract for a development that this will impact. This gentleman is the current owner and a previous developer. Both parts of that change are important due to the fact that our plan to develop is to a builder that desires that in order to sell the townhouse. And if both of those aren't adopted, the decision would be made is we just, that wouldn't be developed. And I don't know what the gentleman to my left would plan to do from a development standpoint, but it was determined in the work that we did that it would not be a for sale development. And I just wanted to add that for clarification. It came up in the planning commission. I would say the builders that we're speaking to that desire, they build in Marshall Township just down the road, very attractive. And they even commented they are not looking for necessarily basement +3 with an attic. Would be completely acceptable to build within the roof trusses or rafters for that third floor. I just wanted to add that's I guess what prompted about separating that. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. So back to the,
Yes, in terms of, as we discussed in the pre-meeting, the options that we talked about, one, passing the ordinance as is, two, a motion to table and refer the ordinance back to the land use committee for consideration of changes to the table with respect to the townhome heights and making it consistent with the request or whatever else the development or that the committee decides to do in terms of the building heights. Three was sort of amending the ordinance table on the fly with respect to a motion to amend that. We did not discuss this other concept of essentially striking section 1, the table for now, referring that to further study by the land use committee. The current table that's already in the ordinance would continue to be in effect, and moving forward with the ordinance with just essentially section 2, 3, and 4, which is the garage door, and then the usual ones about severability and effective date. That would, similar to if you were changing the table here on the fly, subject to a section 108 optional advertisement would be the way to go about it instead of restarting the process completely, as was essentially option 2 of those, now 4.
So our developer is in what zoning district?
This particular project, the Cardinal Ridge, is in the M2 zoning district, which is the blue area on the official zoning map.
I've got to say, I think we need to be very careful that we're not making zoning changes for one specific developer. I understand Mr. Fellheimer's position that he's in. I would like to point out that, sir, we did approve a plan for you 2 years ago. You're back because you're requesting changes. So that's why this is still going on. In my 6 years on council, I can never remember us making any kind of zoning change for a specific developer or a specific development. And so I'm very, very wary of that. My preference would be to table this ordinance and send it back to the land use committee And as such, I'm going to make a motion to table ordinance number 687, 2024, and redirect it to the Land Use Committee so that they can define the term attic and discuss conformity within the table.
Okay, it's been moved.
Okay.
You want me to conduct the? Okay,
I was
yeah.
gonna say, do we want to comment for the rest of the council members? or-
Well, first it's been moved. Is there a second?
There's a second.
I hear no second, so the motion to table and refer to the Land Use Committee has failed for lack of a second. Continue to.
Yes. Would each council member like to explain their position? Mr. Schwartzmeyer, would you like to go first?
Well, I do think, as we talked in the pre-meeting, we need to clarify this. I have the current table that's in effect until we pass this ordinance to amend it.
Mhm.
And what's interesting in that table is for townhouses in every district except the M2, it says 2 plus A, comma B. So why did we not include an attic in this one? I know that's a hypothetical, but I'm just wondering, it's very odd that we have them up here. This is the only one that doesn't include an attic. So it's really ambiguous what we're operating on until we pass this ordinance and we revise this. Because this doesn't even make sense on the current requirement. Am I clear on that? I mean,
I mean, it's been in place for a number of years. I mean, Mr. Phillips, who unfortunately is not here, has interpreted and has,
Right.
dealt with
Here.
applications,
We got a townhouse
both
here.
under building permits. As council knows, a building permit is, not just the UCC and how it is constructed, but is also a zoning permit, meaning that it checks the survey to make sure your setbacks are correct and your building height and everything that's listed in that table are also done. So I don't know if we could say that this has been unworkable or otherwise. I can say, at least in terms of the Land Use Committee's discussion, knowing that the request was, originally just in the M2 zoning district from going from 2B to 3 plus B, came around of looking at the townhouse requirements, throughout the other districts and attempting to make them uniform across every district. There is a 3 plus A, B, I believe, in the R4, and that was used as the standard to apply to everywhere else a townhouse is allowed, usually by right. In the R3 district, the R4 district, the M1 district, the M2 district, but not in the M3, not in the R1, not in the R2.
Okay. Mr. Schwartzmeyer, anything else to add?
Yeah, I just noted that. I mean, I think we have to follow the legal process that Max laid out. I mean, I'm okay with the basement. I'm okay with 2 living floors, and I'm okay with a loft that is at the same as an attic level. That's what we have to determine. And I think that would fly. But I think as we talked in the pre-meeting, just for the record, I think you're getting really high if you put a ground level garage. That's one. It's on the surface. It's not a basement, but count that as the basement. And then 3 living floors plus a loft above that. Now you're getting up too high, I believe. And that's the way it's written now that we're considering. That's how I interpreted that to be. Right or wrong, that's how I read it. When currently it's 2 plus an attic, and that should be okay. Now, whether we can, Max, you have to advise us if we can amend that here. I think I feel better about it, but
As I said, if we make any changes right now and, enact the ordinance with those changes, we are not going through the process. So we would do the optional ad. We would announce, it's been enacted. Here's what it is. It would be the revised version, and would let the public know you have 30 days to file a court complaint, which is an expense. You have to go, you gotta, usually hire a lawyer, you file a land use appeal, you argue, here's what the procedural issue was. Council, the night of the enactment, made these changes, didn't have another public hearing, didn't re-advertise, didn't go through the planning commission. So yeah, we would lose that case, but all that does is means we would start all over again from the beginning. Is there a big risk of that being filed? Probably not. I don't know who else is out there or who would be mad about it. As I say, it's different than us saying we're going to now restrict solar panels, or we're going to say you can't do a certain activity in this zoning district because somebody had a plan and we're moving forward, and we rushed in and we made the change and we didn't do it properly. Well, then they have the grounds to come and say, oh, you can't hold that new change to me because you didn't follow the right process. We are liberalizing at least these two provisions for townhomes and for the garages. We wouldn't be changing the apartments size, which I think everybody's discussed that is acceptable as is. So it's unusual, it's a bit unorthodox, and I think to the comment of not being a site-specific change, and council will remember that there was not only the land development application that went through the whole process, but a variance request for these changes for this site, that was denied, that was only for that site and everything else. And really, because, these are changes that aren't driven by an unnecessary hardship or anything like that, it is a legislative decision, it is a planning decision, and yes, I think the request came in at going to 3B. Land Use Committee went beyond that and went beyond the M2 district to the other ones, and definitely went beyond what was requested as all of this, and is sort of what has put us in the pickle we're in right now. And so, yes, if council is of the mind to make an amendment to the text and pass the optional section 108 motion to reflect that, you can do so.
That's the issue.
There's nobody's gonna, there's no injunction that's gonna be filed right now that says you can't vote on this. You do have some flexibility, but the MPC puts this process in place, which we have followed. We started. This isn't the first night that this is coming up. It's gone through Land Use Committee, it's gone through Planning Commission, it's gone through others. So it's not, the most egregious sort of change to an ordinance, but this is different than changing a motion. This is legislation. This is something that goes into the ordinance book. And yes, we do have the cure option, but it's not without types of issues.
Mr. Schwartzmeyer, what are you proposing?
Well, I'm sensitive to the property owner and the development's timeline. I mean, I get that. But remember, we're changing this, I believe, in 4 different places in our table. So while we're talking about one project, we're talking about allowable use in 4 different places that we're amending the table. So I want to be sure we're amending it appropriately, consistently throughout all 4 of them, and changing them in those other 3 if we do it incorrectly, or we don't have the definition of the attic or the number of floors. Now we're exasperating the situation by applying it not just to the M2, but to the other 3 as well. Because we're changing this in multiple places.
Correct. Which was not the request by the developer. They're only concerned with the M2. So, I mean, in terms of other options, other amendments, you could just make the change to the table, for M2, and that covers both the townhouse and the apartment size, that, from 8 down to 4. And then we can do the ad and everything else. It would also change the, keep the garage limitation in place. And the Land Use Committee can consider the other provisions in the table, in the R3, the R4, the M1 with respect to townhouses and apartments. Like I said.
Tom, anything else?
So it's up, my concern is that we get it uniform and corrected any place that we were applying it. And I think we have it wrong in 4 spots. So I don't know if that would be appropriate to only look at one. That makes it seem more selective, but
Right.
in my opinion, but I'd like to get it right so that there's no disputes going forward. That's all.
Okay.
And right now, there was clearly some confusion last night at the planning commission, and I think we should straighten the thing out. I don't want to give them a false hope that we're going to, if we make this change and somebody then comes in and challenges it, where does it leave them? If they know there's a 30-day period that somebody could challenge it.
It's at risk. I mean,
Regardless, they'd be at risk then, right? For that 30 days?
That's correct.
Or would we be at risk if,
we aren't. I mean, it's,
The applicant would be at risk.
Procedurally, can you do what you're suggesting, Tom, where you're at, so it's supposedly at risk, but then go back to land use and start the process of going forward with it, following the regular process where you publication and comment and public hearing?
well, I mean, there was, maybe it's a 5th option, but something that was discussed in the pre-meeting was pass the ordinance as is because you've gone through the process and immediately start the review of R3, R4, or M1, declare a pending zoning ordinance provision, that kind of places these back, to where they were. But, in terms of, as I say, we're getting sort of, I won't say fast and loose. I mean, that the MPC does have this procedure in place. This is legislation. There are amendments that can be made, but there is an advertising requirement and process to do that. But you can also use Section 108, knowing that there is a risk that somebody could file a challenge. As we talked about, this one does not seem like one that many people would consider challenge.
Okay. Barbara Lee, do you have any,
I agree with Tom.
Luke, anything else?
No, I don't think so. But I just want to clarify that when I said, we should be careful making changes for one specific, I meant rushing through this process. I think that's why I think it needs to go back. Let us define attic and let us take a look at whether it should be 2 plus A and B or 3 plus A and B or 3 plus B.
Don't forget, what's an A?
Right. That's what,
Got it.
defining attic, I think is a crucial
Okay.
part.
Mr.
of this.
Malkin, any comment?
I don't know, I think it's all been said.
how quickly, I mean, could this be on planning commission books for their next meeting?
I think it has to go to the county first, right?
No, it
No.
can go at the same time. I mean, the county,
Oh.
it's supposed to have 30 days, before we have another public hearing to review. We can't vote on it until 45 days pass, or they issue a comment letter that can sort of short circuit that time period. We have always, because of that, scheduled a public hearing 2 months in advance to give us time to distribute it to the county and the planning commission. Gives the planning commission 2 possible meetings to meet and discuss it. That's what we needed this time because there was lack of a quorum at the August meeting and why it was discussed just last night. But that is the MPC process.
Okay. Let's check that.
I would have no problem if we were to vote on the garage door portion of this ordinance tonight. I think for reasons we've discussed here and in our pre-meeting, I'm not comfortable voting on the table and the changes to that tonight. I think we have a lot more work to do on that. But if we do decide to separate these out, I have no problem with moving forward with the garage door.
I see that's some progress towards changing this without, and then, if
Okay.
everybody's inclined to take it back and look at it somewhere, that's fine. But I wouldn't have a problem with what Ms. I'm sorry, what she's suggesting as well. It's kind of a glass half full thing. At least some of the corrections or amendments that council's been trying to make would get taken care of tonight. Even if everybody's inclined to send it back to work on it some more as far as the attic and the different levels and the different zoning districts, I think what Ms. Chekai is suggesting is reasonable.
Mr. Mayor, you have comment?
No, I agree with what you just said. I think we could move forward with the garage doors and then
Okay.
move forward to get everything else right.
Okay, so we have a couple options on the table. Lots of options
Don't
actually.
make me repeat them.
Yeah, so one, you could table it completely and like correct it overall. You could also work on the garage door itself item. Or you can amend the table on the fly for M2 while pending the other 3 zones, right? Or 4, you just vote as is and approve, defeat, or abstain.
And I did have one more comment, which is, I know that we're going to change the height of the apartment buildings for safety reasons because of the fire trucks can only reach so high. I would be inclined to do that too procedurally while we're doing the garage doors. That's something that we can do too.
Yeah, can, but it's getting very complicated. I mean, the
Yeah.
motion, if you want to move forward with the garage doors, that the motion should be to enact, as written, right here, but strike section 1. Section 1 is the entire residential use area table, so we wouldn't make any changes to that.
That would be my suggestion, just for simplicity.
And that would be open for to a challenge for 30 days or would not?
30
It
days.
Yeah.
would.
But the nice thing about that one is, Mr. Mislinski, that is not a restriction. That's actually a liberalization. So the chances of that being challenged are fairly slim. Nobody should be
But it
aggrieved
can-
by that change.
But it can be challenged.
It could be.
Correct.
Right, so
Yeah.
if you are anybody working on this, you should not start for 30 days because there's a challenge period.
That's fair.
You still can, you're just at risk.
You're just
Yeah.
at risk. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
So
is
if
there?
I can summarize, it
Yeah,
sounds
okay, go
like
ahead.
the proposed motion is move to enact ordinance number 687, 2024, amending chapter 212 of the Code of the Borough of Franklin Park zoning to amend the residential uses area and bulk requirements table and revise garage door standards for multifamily buildings, but strike section 1 regarding the amendments to the residential uses area and bulk requirements table and refer that section back to the land use committee. Does that sound good? Do I have that motion?
Beautiful.
Is there?
Somebody make it, just
I
say
think
so.
we-
So
moved.
Moved by Mr. Malkin, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Checkeye. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no.
No.
We don't need a roll call. I've got a 5-1. That motion carries. We'll stay on the record for motion 5.
Okay.
Move to authorize publication of the optional ordinance.
Yeah, speaking to your mic.
Move to authorize the publication of the optional ordinance enactment public notice under section 108 of the municipality's planning code.
Second.
All those for?
Aye.
Aye.
All those against? Abstain? Motion number 5 carries.
Okay, well, we are off the record for the public hearing. Thank you for everybody who participated in that. We can now move on to item 6 on the agenda.
Move to ratify advertising for bids for the Montgomery Road Stormwater Project and the Ramblewood Basin Retrofit Project.
Second.
All those for?
Aye.
Aye.
All those against? Abstain? Motion carries.
Move to authorize the second partial payment of the annual donation to the McKenna's Franklin Park Ambulance Authority in the amount of $24,309.
I make a motion that we postpone this to a future meeting.
Table.
Table.
Second.
The motion is to table number 7.
Yeah, I'm sorry, move the
Okay.
table.
Any discussion?
Yeah, just so everyone's aware, we discussed this at the pre-meeting, but apparently there was an ambulance authority meeting this week. Some changes are being proposed to the funding structure, so we'd like to take a look at that before we submit this payment.
All those for?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against? Abstain? Motion is tabled.
Yes.
Move to reject the sole bid received for contract number 24-PK1 Clover Hill Golf Course Clubhouse Exterior Renovations Project to authorize the return of the bid bond and to authorize advertising the project for rebid.
Second.
All those for,
Aye.
Aye.
all those against? Abstain? Motion carries.
Move to authorize the purchase of 7 6-foot recycled plastic cedar benches for the Acorn Park Improvements Project through George Eli Associates of Carlisle, PA, at a total cost of $7,510 under CoStar's contract number 014 ET3299.
Second.
All those for,
Aye.
against? Abstain? Motion
Move to,
carries.
I'm sorry.
Motion carries. You're good.
Move to authorize the purchase of a Superior Recreational Products monoslope shelter for the Acorn Park improvements projects through PS Commercial Play LLC, doing business as Play and Park Structures of Chattanooga, Tennessee, at a total cost of $26,072.50 under CoStar's contract number 014 E22-291, pending approval by the DCNR.
Second.
All those for,
Aye.
against? Abstain? Motion number 10 carries.
Move to authorize the purchase of 9 Nature Rocks log benches for the Acorn Park Improvements Project through PS Commercial Play LLC, DBA Play and Park Structures of Chattanooga, Tennessee, at a total cost of $31,567.10 under CoStar's contract number 014-E22-291, pending approval by DCNR.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstain? Motion 11 carries. Comments? Manager?
No comments.
Solicitor?
No comments.
Okay. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, thank you. I have 2 comments, actually. Congratulations to the 17 North Allegheny students named semifinalists in the 2025 National Merit Scholarship Program. And today it just happens to be our U.S. Air Force 77th birthday. So happy birthday to our Air Force. And the Air Force is our second largest branch and also the largest Air Force in the world. So congratulations to them. That's it, Mr. President.
Okay. Council Schwarzmeyer? Any comments?
Nope, nothing further.
Okay. Councilman Lee?
Nothing.
Councilman Kaczynski?
Thank you. Just wanted to let everyone know and remind you, if you're already aware, that this Saturday at 8 a.m. the fire department is hosting once again Firefighter for a Day. If you've ever been interested in seeing what firefighters do, you can come out and there's 4 or 5 evolutions. You can partake in the ones that you want to, skip the ones that maybe you don't want to. But it's a great day. It's been a good recruiting tool. It's not just Franklin Park. It's 6 other North Hills fire departments at the same time. So if you'd like to stop by, you can see me. I'll give you the website. I think there's a poster hanging up somewhere too with a QR code. But we'd love to have you. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilman Malcolm?
No further comments.
Councilman Chekai?
Nothing further.
Okay. So Borough Engineer?
No further comment, Mr. President.
All right. Chief?
I have nothing else to add.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Stop.
No comment.
Zach? Okay. That is it, and we are ready for public comments. Sorry, our junior council person? Comment? Okay. On to public comments. Do we have anybody's hands raised on the online?
I see no hands raised.
Okay. From the public, is there anybody who would like to speak? Yes, please approach your name and address. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jessica Marilillo. I live on Brant School Road, 2523 Brant School Road. My husband, I think, was here 2 weeks ago and was at the meeting, and I'm coming just to kind of tag on to what he had already discussed. In addition, I have some questions, and I don't know if I'll necessarily get answers tonight, but even if you could guide me in the right direction to get answers to those questions. As I'm sure you guys already know, I feel like our development is the hot topic in Franklin Park as far as like sidewalk issues. My husband and I have not necessarily been, we haven't been, sorry, I'm having a hard time with my words tonight. I feel like I've thought about this for a really long time before now. We have 2 small girls. We also have a family of 6 children that just moved in to the right of us, and a family that has 1 daughter next to us, as well as lots of neighbors across Branch School Road that utilize the neighborhoods behind them to walk the roads. Now that there is sidewalks in front of our house, people are utilizing them, which I understand is probably the purpose of a sidewalk, right? My concern is the fact that Branch School Road is an extremely busy road where cars go very fast, and there, to me, is not an advantage of having them there, but we recognize at this point that, what's done is done and the sidewalks are going in. But I personally feel as though there was not due diligence done in determining whether or not it would be beneficial for the betterment of the community, considering there is speeding that occurs on that road very frequently. I've talked to many professionals that when they hear that I live on Branch School Road, they make sure that I don't have my kids play in the front yard for that reason. And I believe that if you were truly invested in the best interest of the houses along that road, or even people trying to cross the road to get to the neighborhood behind us, that you guys would consider doing a JMAR speed test or speed study on Branch School Road. To my knowledge, when I did contact the borough and the police department, they were not aware of one that had been done in the recent past. I was not sure if one had been done when it was proposed or enacted that these sidewalks were to go in, because I do believe that with these houses where they're placed and the sidewalks placed in front of them, that a speed limit of 35 miles per hour, and then not including what I'm assuming the study would find, which is that most people are going well above 35 miles an hour on that road, that's not necessarily safe conditions for people to be walking right along Branch School Road on a sidewalk. Additionally, my husband had come back and mentioned to me that a lot that was discussed regarding the need for sidewalks is for everything to be the same, right? To keep conformity among the community, which I am totally in support of. But what I'm not in support of is saying that you want things to be the same and have everybody, have the same standards. I think that was the word that was utilized quite a bit. But there's quite a few areas in which these sidewalks have been put in that do not meet the same standards as the other houses along those 5 that have their own sidewalks put in, including the fact that there are not sidewalk cuts in the driveway that just was placed next to us. But I did call and speak to, somebody at the borough to request whether we could get sidewalks just up to our driveway, to defer the cost on us that is, substantial at this point. And we were told that it could be brought up in the meeting to be discussed, but that it's something you guys have not allowed previously. Additionally, when I looked at the plans prior to coming here, the way that I understand them is that because of the fact that we were putting in sidewalk at the length that you were, it's required that ADA regulations are taken in consideration with all of that sidewalk. There is an ADA ramp that is written on the plans near EMS Lane, and it is already placed there. There was not one marked on the plans for the entrance into the neighborhood behind us, which, if you were to look at the roads and the way things are organized, there's literally an opportunity across the road and then also across from it on the other side as well, where they can access sidewalks. And again, from witnessing multiple people cross Branch School Road because there is no designated sidewalk, there have been multiple times where traffic has come to a halt or had to swerve to avoid hitting people. So I would like consideration put in place to meet those standards on the sidewalks so that we can provide a safe environment for people that are using them. You're welcome.
Is there anyone else who's not signed up who wants to speak? Okay.
Now we're moving into executive session.
Yes. Still have that. Yes, we are going to be moving into executive session. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.